Hello and welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it's been
The
a long day, but
Eagles won though. They beat Dallas.
yeah. So
And it was a
go
beatdown
birds.
too. Yeah,
Go
go
birds.
Birds. You said, wait, say that again,
Go
Kyle.
birds.
Go Birds. Dallas sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very tired as well, but hey, thank you for tuning in here. We just returned this morning from our trip to Frisco,
Yeah,
Dallas area.
we had like 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah, but we had a wonderful time despite the outcome, which
We
we'll
did.
discuss today. And on today's show, we're going to talk about obviously the MLS Next Pro Cup, which you feel bad for Marlon and the players, but there were some great moments in that game and
Hmm.
overall the experience. And then also, just kind of share our thoughts a little bit on the season and kind of put a bow on that. But before we get started, what are we wearing today?
I'm just wearing a Union shirt that I got a couple years ago, and on the back it has Stuart Finley on it. So,
And I'm wearing the JSP Philadelphia Union
mhm.
shirt that I wear a lot. Really, really like this shirt. It's really comfy. Enjoy the hat too.
Nice.
Um, but where can people find us?
So you can find us on Twitter at TOTWAG. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the One Team We Agree On. We also have our YouTube channel and we have a website, theoneteamweagreeon.com. You can find us individually on Twitter. Kyle's at Coach Almany and I am at silly double underscore Jilly. I'm on TikTok at Jillian underscore Almany. And I'm not on any of the other things at the moment. Too many social medias to keep up with.
For sure, for sure. But all right, let's dive into it. So flew in on Friday night, got
Hmm.
in late. Um we're staying right by the Toyota Stadium.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of hotels right by the stadium complex, which was very convenient. So we stayed at one of the hotels right by there.
Yeah, and really didn't do much first night, just kind of relaxed knowing we were gonna have a busy day the next day. So kind of get right into this. Share one of the big things I was there last year.
Hmm.
Was the National Soccer Hall of Fame, which is right there at Toyota Stadium.
Yep.
We decided to check that out prior to the match, kind of just hang out in that area that I had seen last year and wanted to kind of explore
Yeah.
more. So, yeah, if you're listening on YouTube, uh, definitely check it out. We have some good clips and videos coming out today's episode, so check that out. If not, we will share some of our videos as well, here on
Hmm.
the podcast.
Yep. And I shared some things on my Twitter too.
So, just a couple pictures. This is us at the airport.
Yeah, yeah, Friday night. We flew out of BWI, which was pretty good. Yeah. So we went to it was a really nice day on Saturday. So Saturday morning we got up and we walked over to the Frisco Fresh Market, which was right by our hotel.
Literally right by there, and in the background, you can see the stadium. That's literally how close to the stadium we were.
Yeah, we walked there.
Yeah,
So,
literally walked there from our hotel.
yep.
So yeah, the Frisco Fresh Market was very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Uh,
open air market and lots of vendors, food, stands with like craft type things. There was a bunch of like dog or and cat kind of food stuff. Food from all over. There was like Mexican, Salvadorian, um, like all kinds of different food.
yeah, and then after we went there and checked that out, we the Soccer Hall of Fame opens at 10 on Saturday, so it was still not open, it was still early. We walked around this area directly across. It's kind of a
Yeah,
residential area. We kind of joke this is kind of what Chester
could be.
kind could be with that whole project that Sugarman and the owners kind of envisioned when they first started.
Yeah, they kind of made it kind of like a little, urban area with
Shopping district with
yeah.
restaurants.
And like apartments above and everything. So, yeah. So we walked around and kind of killed some time till the Soccer Hall of Fame would open. And yeah, so there's the Soccer Hall of Fame. which
Yeah.
is directly adjacent to the stadium.
So right where it says Hall of Fame there, you can like walk around the stadium, but during game day, right where there's a gate to the right of the Soccer Hall of Fame, that's like the players' entrance.
Yeah.
So it's really odd. Like you can literally like just be walking across the street and see like if you're a Dallas fan, like Jesus Ferreira and those guys just walking in that way.
Yeah, and we saw the Union 2 guys coming out getting on the bus when we were coming out there too. So
So yeah, so we went and checked out the Soccer Hall of Fame, and
it's
like I
like
said,
$15 admission, I think it was.
$15 admission. And one of the things, and I talked about that on a previous episode, is while it's not a huge Hall of Fame like the baseball, football, etc.,
Yeah.
it's very interactive.
Very. It's very customizable too. Like it's really cool. So I know you had been to it before, but for
Yep.
me, it was my first time. And so when you go in, you set up a profile and you put in your information, you put your in like email and everything because they'll email you like the stuff that you do that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you'll see this once we get into it, but you can select like kind of your level of soccer fandom and what teams you're interested in
Mm-hmm.
and it'll customize the experience for you. So I thought that was really cool.
I did too. And the first time I was there, I kind of just went through and we still didn't do any of the VR. They have a lot of virtual reality stuff, but which we didn't participate in. But
Yeah,
like
skills challenges. Yeah.
right there at the beginning, you can select your best 11.
Yep. So like making a national team. So that's just a picture I took of when I was like forming my team and I of course chose Alejandro Bedoya.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Back when he had long hair.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like we kind of walked around. They kind of do it where you kind of go to the right. It kind of talks about the history, the beginning of soccer, United States.
Yeah, and like this has NASL, which
Yep.
shout out to my dad for briefly being in the NASL.
Yeah,
He was with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers.
and then kind of some of the more of the things. You have the Rowdies, which are now in USL, and then the Whitecap Sounders. Um, come some of those kind of talks about Pele. 1967, they had the MPSL in the United States, Baltimore Bays, just kind of that whole history. I thought that was cool. And then you really like this map.
Yeah, so if you're listening, not viewing it, there's a map of the United States and Canada, and it has soccer across America, and it has like this map that shows all the clubs, and it has it has like MLS and it has Next Pro and it has USL on it, I think too, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's USL
Yeah.
Championship in one, and then the NWSL, I believe.
Yeah, it has the NWSL on it too. So, you can see Union and Union 2 there, for instance,
Yeah.
which was cool. And shows you, of course, there's a ton of soccer more on the eastern half of the US. But I thought that was cool to look at.
It really was. And every year it looks like they do a good job of updating it since I was there last. They've
Yeah.
added some other teams to it.
Yeah, do they have San Diego on it yet?
They do not yet.
No, so they'll have to update that. Yeah.
And then kind of there's an area right around where it kind of shows your teams.
And you can view like their championships and things that they've won. So, of course, just for the Union, the Supporter Shield came up there.
Hmm.
And then there's a thing where you could actually make a customized scarf.
Yeah.
So you can choose design, you can, have logos on there and stuff. And the cool thing is, I think it's for $30, you can actually have it printed and you can pick it up in the shop.
Yeah, it's Soccer 90.
That's Soccer 90 right there. So
Yeah.
I just made one for fun that had like Union 2. I just put Union 2. I know you made a couple that were kind of
Yes.
fun.
Yes, I made some fun ones, which
Uh,
yes, given the political well, not political climate, well, just the fans' thoughts on the team
mhm.
this year, we had some fun with that.
Yeah. And then you could design a jersey too. So this kit design was pretty cool. So there's one that you designed, Kyle.
Yep.
Kind of, in the same vein as this year's primary jersey.
Yeah.
Um, but that was cool. And I was kind of going with something similar. I know I included a picture of the one I did somewhere, but
Yeah.
might come up. But anyway,
And then kind of you can go out in this open area. It's kind of like the club level
Yeah.
that we have in Philadelphia. This area kind of walks out into like showing all the history of the trophies and all that,
There's
but
like stuff in the floor. Like you look down at there's like
which
different kind of
his
artifacts in the floor.
yeah, historical moments in
Yeah.
men's and women's national team. But yeah, they were kind of getting everything ready for the game that night when we were there, and that was kind of cool. Here's
There's the
yours.
kit that I designed.
I really like that.
Thank you.
It's very nice. Again, it's very simplistic, but yeah, I've personally really enjoyed making those and trying some different things.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yep, here's like they talk every year about the media award.
Yes.
Uh, um,
There's Jose on the left, our
yeah,
friend Jose Nunez. That's Jose. It's not him, but
no,
I was like, that's like Jose in like 20, 30 years.
yeah. Um, and then just had some recent soccer milestones. Philadelphia Adams kind of just
Yeah, that was a cool throwback there.
it was, and it was just really cool to see that, but also just kind of some of the history of the national
But yeah,
team and just they had a lot of good things from like U.S. leagues, and then kind of mix that in with soccer.
yeah, keep going. Also want to point out, like, because it kind of got glossed over, from the U.S. Women's Olympic team, they had stuff there. There's Trinity Rodman,
Yep.
and yeah, like there's some different things there from that. So I thought that was cool
Yes, yes,
since they
yes.
won. But anyway,
And then again, we were just kind of looking, kind of posted some stuff from kind of getting ready for the game tonight when we were walking around,
hmm
and then
that's one of
kind
the floor things.
one of the floor things, and they would have like minute this, and this was
hmm
like a historic moment during that mo minute, and this was kind of one Brian McBride in 2002, his header. I kind of really remember that moment against Portugal. That was a huge moment and that time for the men's national team. So they had that there. And then after that, we kind of went over to the store.
Yeah, and so of course I noticed they had North Texas jerseys and scarves and t-shirts for sale. Okay, so MLS Next Pro stuff. Now I know it's like a team by team basis they decide if they want to
Yeah,
sell stuff, but yeah, if they can sell stuff and we know there's demand for it.
we
Now,
do.
they're Eastern Conference champions now. Like literally if they don't jump on this chance, because since when did the Union not want to make a buck here? Come on now.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
I mean, in Soccer Night is a really cool little store. They have like
Stuff from all the teams.
all the teams. They have all their kits. Some of them, even the third kits.
Yeah.
Finally got to see that third third Inter Miami kit. That the one that
One
was like
like the
the
dolphin.
Dolphins. Yeah, not a fan of that. It's way too. They could have done so much more
hmm
with that. But the Portland one there in the background. That
The maroon one. That was
yeah,
cool.
that was a really nice one. So.
Yeah.
And then they had kind of like a little display for the MLS Next Pro Cup. They had the Western Conference Trophy, which, as we had heard, the Eastern Conference, the arrow
Yep.
goes to the East, the Western Conference
Mhm.
goes to the West. They had the cup over here, along with kind of the kit.
Yep. And had Union 2 won, I'd be like, there it is. It was prophesied. But was
Yeah.
not. But interesting to so that has yeah, so it's the um secondary kit that they end up wearing in the game, the one
Mhm.
that's like kind of like the smoke and water one, but um anyway, this is the last time they wore that kit. They're gonna have a new one next year because they kind of follow what the first team does. But
Yep.
I always liked that kit, and it has like at the top of it, it has that it says North Texas versus Union 2. It has like the little inscription on it, like what
Yep.
the game, the game it's for. So I thought that was cool.
So yeah, I mean, so we did that. Oh,
Oh
and
yeah, so
yeah.
okay.
So yeah, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, so they had like a green screen kind of thing. It was like a photo bomb booth that they had. So you could like insert yourself into different moments in pro soccer. So like I'm in there with, the US women and Kyle, you did some too. Did you include any of yours in there?
I did
They
not.
were really funny though.
They
I
were
could
funny.
lie.
But so let's put a wrap on that area before we kind of go back and share some of the places we visited
hmm
why we were there. Um, what was your favorite exhibit?
Um, well, I have to say I had a lot of fun doing the photo booth because
Yeah.
we had a lot of fun with that. But um honestly, like I thought it was cool doing the really interactive stuff.
Yeah, no, again, and if you did end up going and you are listening and you were there on this weekend, or if you've been there before, tell us your favorite um exhibits and all that. For me, I like looking at where they have the display of all the current champions
That one was cool. That was
with
cool.
all the soccer, like college soccer and lower level soccer. That's always fun. Also, I like looking at the old history of the
Yeah.
league. Like they even have a part which we didn't really take pictures of this time was soccer in Texas. I thought that was kind of cool, kind of like especially the early part. But I would say overall the
Oh, the one wall that was like interactive, it had like historical things that you could customize it. Like here's ones that have to do with Philadelphia. And
yeah.
so there was about like one of the players from Bethlehem Steel. I can't remember his name. But like there was stuff like that, which was really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then afterwards we left and we checked out a few other places, but we kind of the whole shopping area. You have restaurants, bars all over.
Hmm.
Especially it's called World Cup Plaza. There's
Yeah.
huge all around the sports complex. And again kind of like what they're envisioning in Chester.
Yeah.
So we checked out a few spots. We went to
Jake's Burgers and Brews.
Jake's Burgers and Brews, which was very kind of cool little hangout.
Hmm.
Um, we checked out Nerdvania, which
Nirvana.
Nirvana.
Yeah,
Um,
so that place is really cool. We have some pictures from that. Well, I
yeah,
have like a picture from that I put on here.
but
So,
yeah. So this place, go ahead.
yeah. So the cool thing about this is it's very centered around gaming. So
Yep.
all kinds of games. You could sit at the bar or at a table, whatever, and there's a TV and they give you controllers and you can play all kinds of different games. So we're sitting at the bar there playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, that personally was one of my favorite spots.
They had a good selection of like of course we have to try some local stuff while we're there, so.
Yeah, and then we went and checked out after the game with some of the Bridge Brigade. We went to the Green Gator. That was kind of a little sports bar.
Yeah.
And they were open late. There
Hmm.
was another place we didn't get to called Tailgaters that was kind of right down the road.
Yeah.
There's like a kids and family entertainment zone that's opened up late. So again, lots of stuff.
Hmm. This is
We
back at the market.
we ended up after there, we decided to head back, get kind of
Hmm.
ready for the game tonight. So we stopped and got some food at the open air market, got some tacos. They were
I got some iced matcha latte.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we kind of got a picture here of
Yeah. So,
some of our street food. I got this watermelon drink that was basically tasted like fresh watermelon.
yeah. And I also got from one of the vendors there a it's a trivet that you put hot things on it. But I don't know, it's too pretty. Like I don't think I want to put like a hot pan on it or something. But they have a bunch that had like cats and dogs. So I got one that looks like our cat Ruby.
Yeah, and that was cool. What was your favorite exhibit? I
Uh
mean, not exhibit, spot we visited.
Honestly, I think Nirvana was really cool.
Yeah, I like Nirvana. Um, there was that Derbyshire, that English place we walked by that was kind of way towards the back of where, all those businesses, restaurants were. I thought that place was cool. And there was that peach cobbler place. If we ever go back and it's
Yeah.
still there, they have places like if you like peach cobbler,
Yeah.
for peach cobbler. So yeah, really cool spot. So anything else with kind of pre-match you want to talk about?
I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. And I mean, it was just such a nice day to walk around. Oh, I'm not I put it on my Instagram story, but we also saw a Blue Star Sports or whatever building.
Yes.
It was clearly, with the Cowboys, and so as any good Philadelphia Eagles fan would do. I gave it a particular salute.
Yeah. So That yeah, that was funny. So
And
yeah,
I was wearing my an Eagle
definitely
shirt
go
that
check
day.
that out. Yeah, that
Yes.
was interesting. So, and I say that in the most nicest way if you're an Eagles fan listening. It was interesting what she did. So, having said all that, we'll get into talking a little bit about the game now. Again, Union to it was very disappointing and sad for the kids. They
Yeah.
had 2 goal lead at half, but we know what we say about 2 goal leads.
Yep.
It's the most,
Most dangerous lead to have because
exactly.
yeah.
We could say, Union could have done better, and sure they could have, and Marlin players know that. But at the end of the day, kind of like you were talking about, I know we heard Todd and Jose post game talk about, at the end of the day, these are kids. This is a growth moment for them.
Yeah. So let's just start from the top here. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the stadium. First of
So
all.
the stadium is very MLS 1.0.
Yeah.
There's a huge stage at one end. Not it's just one big bowl, and there's kind of
But like you can't, I don't think, walk the
all the
whole
way
way
around
around. Yeah,
because
because that
well,
stage.
okay, so back where the stage is,
Yeah.
there looks like there is a walk around
Yeah, it does
area,
look like you can walk around
but
that way.
it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Uh, the press box is to the left side where you're looking at Soccer Hall of Fame. It's to that side,
And it's up.
and it is up. And the other thing is they were having people to the right, so all the fans were kind of on that side, and then they kind of wrapped it around to the concourse area where the Soccer Hall of Fame is, and then kind of there that supporter section
Yeah.
there on the left, right by Soccer 90. So their supporter section is kind of weird. It's kind of on an angle, so if you're looking at and we'll show when we see it where it has kind of concourse area. It's a Soccer Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's to the right of there, but on the lower levels, kind of right there on the corner. It's an interesting place for
Yeah. And
so.
I have some pictures that
So
included if you
yeah,
want to
we're
show that.
gonna share some. Also, shout out to Jimmy King and Mike Barrera. They were at the watch party at Union Yards. So
Yes.
Union Yards had a watch party, and they were sending us pictures throughout the night. Mike was, and so. Just want to kind of share some things before we get and talk about the game. So, first and foremost, let's take a look at this. And
Here's the
here's the
stadium.
picture of the stadium we want to get into. So, this is the team walking around. So, you see the gate straight across. That was open. They were letting fans in there. Um, but yeah, they have like some shops. But again, it reminds me a little bit of, well, kind of reminds me a lot of Colorado,
Yeah.
except for Colorado kind of had like the
Because
coverage,
this didn't have any kind of roof on that side or anything.
which is wild because it gets hot in the evenings down there,
Yeah.
and they also had football lines, so they play
Yep, there was
high
football
school
line.
football there. So
Yep.
um, I found that interesting.
Yeah,
I
and
remember earlier in the day, Todd text comment our post, one post I had, he's like football lines. I'm like, yeah, I
yeah.
know. I had,
And also the press box, like we were behind glass windows. So
yeah, that's
while it kind of controlled the temperature on our end, it's weird because it was so quiet in the press box,
even
really.
when they scored.
Because you can't cheer. In fact, it was funny because it was actually like on a thing on the wall. It's like, yeah, no cheering or your credentials will be revoked, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was funny. So this is from what Mike sent me. They had an autographed Union 2 kit.
But yeah, whoever won that, I'm
Didn't
jealous.
didn't Borton say, or
He
one of the Bridge Brigade kit people say they knew who won it?
I think they said they knew who won it, but yeah, like I don't know who won it.
And then they also had a nice little you know,
Yeah, the Eastern Conference Final,
plaque.
like a banner thing that they
Yep.
have.
So they were giving raffling them out. And then speaking of Bridge Brigade, so
Yeah, so that was the Union 2 player introductions, and um, down there in the corner is where the Bridge Brigade guys were, and so they were like I could hear them during the match though, which was great. And when Union 2 scored, they were doing Jump for Philadelphia and all that, and
yeah.
you could hear them. So,
and that was cool. And yeah, shout out to them. The whole night they were having fun. You could hear them. But again, if you're listening here, I'll play it again. So you could hear like the PA announcer, you could hear stuff, but again, if you've ever been behind glass walls, if you've ever been in a press box where it's not open air, it's very muffled. You don't get the full energy. Even like when North Texas scored and they had like right where they had the fire and like the
mhm,
sirens, warning sirens going off when they scored. It really was very mu muffled and muted and
yeah.
kind of didn't get the whole feel of it.
For me, every time that the ball was being played on the sideline closest to us, I had to like
Look over.
I had to like scoot all the way up in my chair. I was like, I need a booster seat um to see. But um
So let's talk about this moment.
this
So
was cool.
yeah, so why don't you talk about this?
Okay, so before the game began, we didn't know this was happening either, so it
Hmm.
was kind of a surprise. But Kyle Wood, aka Kyle the baby, he got to carry out, I think it was the MVP trophy, and then they had they represent him from Union 2 basically, so they chose Kyle, and then Kyle Wood, of course, not you, Kyle,
Yeah,
and then the I forget what his name is.
Bernard Kamunga, the refugee,
Yes,
um, has an amazing story. We've
yes,
talked about it in some of our group chats in the past. Just a
yeah,
really wonderful story this player has had.
yeah,
And you know, I after the game we talked to Kyle, it's like here you got this wonderful, wonderful story about this player, refugee, comes over, makes something of himself.
yeah.
And you know, Kyle's even like, yeah, that was
He's like, and then there's me.
and then there's Kyle.
Yeah,
And you know,
no,
and we're not ripping on him,
no,
but
like that's what he was
it's
saying.
like it's yeah, he was. It was like, you know, here's this guy with a great story, professional soccer player, and then it's Kyle the baby.
Then there's this
And
dude with the bucket hat.
yes.
No, no, and I thought it was so cool. Like as soon as I saw him coming, I was like, that is freaking cool. I mean, seriously.
And then so these other people, they were like, yeah, like I guess Tim had told him, you know, Timothy Holter had told him, like, hey, we're gonna do this, and he kind of just disappeared. And the other guys were like, where's Kyle? Where's Kyle? And it was funny because as they were getting ready, I'm like looking over there, and I'm like saying to myself, what's Kyle's doing by like the players' entrance? And I'm thinking maybe they're doing something fun where he's gonna like high five them
Yeah,
or something fun. And then they introduce it. Here he comes out holding the MVP trophy. I'm like.
yeah,
And I remember him just saying, that was a long walk.
yeah. It was because I took video of it, and it's like this is a really long video.
And he's like, yeah.
I think you have it, maybe.
I don't know if I
I
have
don't know.
this,
Is it?
but we do actually have
There's the
video.
procession coming in.
So what we're watching here is just the players lining up, um, kind of procession.
Yeah, and I took like other videos of it too, but like it was kind of long.
Yeah, it was a very long procession. They went through the national anthem. Here is a still photo of it,
Yeah.
kind of completed when the smokes and pyrotechnics went off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But again, you know, just a very good opening ceremony. They did national anthem,
Yep.
and then they kind of did like, oh, I forgot something. They kind of did a package, kind of like when we were at MLS Cup. They kind of did a package about how both teams got there,
Yeah, like some yeah, they like on the screen they did like
and
highlights and stuff.
it wasn't as encompassing or like remember I guess 2022 they did like they had all the teams and
The teams that they beat.
they
Yeah.
kind of broke it down and
That was
broke it.
cool when they did
That
that.
was cool. This was kind of just like a little video package, but shout out to Vince. He was
Yeah.
actually in one of them. I had to give
Yeah.
him a shout out
We're
and
like
like and then like they show like I was looking over at Bridge Brigade because Vince was down there like they're all like oh Vince is like oh my gosh you know so that was a cool moment for him. Shout out to him.
yes.
And I think for me, just again, kind of like I said last episode of the Eastern Conference Finals, just seeing all the stories of the players that are sitting
Yeah.
there at the final, and then seeing all the people at the Bridge Brigade, just how hard knowing their story and we
Yeah.
have a clip at the end we're going to share. Marlon kind of again goes back and shares some of his thoughts.
Yeah.
But
And there was a bunch
just
of other fans too.
yeah, there was other Union fans there. We had
Yeah.
heard that some people from Philadelphia that were going to the Eagles game today
Yeah.
were coming over to see. So there was some Union fans there, people from Philly. You could definitely see it.
Yeah, and it was like I think a record-breaking crowd too, like
7,000.
over 7,000. Yeah.
So yeah, here's another video.
Yep.
This is the national anthem. So there's that. And then again, some pictures from Union Yards. This is getting ready for kickoff. So again, nice crowd at Union Yards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for second team, hey, there's Matt. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, Matt's there. And I didn't realize that at first. And then here kind of as they were
Just to
getting,
show you more of what the crowd was looking like.
yeah. So again, for a stadium that's really not that big, this was a really nice crowd. I mean, I think they're like kind of comparable in some ways. I think they're like 1,000 or two less. If you're listening, kind of, I don't know what Toyota Stadium holds. So maybe somebody can comment. But yeah, it was nice. And of course, their support section was kind of over to the right where my cursor is in the corner. So there was that. And but anyway, let's we'll share some other videos towards the end. But kind of your thoughts. This was kind of the tale of the two games.
Yeah, so first of all, the lineup was the same as it's been
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs, basically. And so strong lineup, and it they came out hot. Like they were pressing, they were getting chances right from the get-go. And then for Marcus Anderson to score so early on, I forget what minute it was. It
It's
was
like the
like
ninth minute.
yeah, it was early, and we're like, oh my goodness, here we go. And I mean, I think CJ had a shot like really early in the first couple of minutes,
Yeah,
but like Marcus scores there, and we're like, all right. And then just a few minutes later, Eddie Davis scores, and he was so overdue for one too.
right. And that was kind of funny thing because Jose, you guy was like,
Yeah,
call it like, yeah, Eddie needs to score. I'm like, we agree. And then I even turned to Tom Villa at the other behind us, and I said, Tom, when's the last time he scored? Eddie hasn't scored since September 23rd versus NYCFC 2. So congratulations to Eddie for at least breaking out of that in a big stage. I mean,
he was the Union 2's top goal scorer for
yeah.
the regular season. So, and that's even with him missing a few games when he was, you know, over
I,
in Europe.
I remember heading into the Eastern Conference Finals. One of my questions I was going to ask Marlon was, how concerned are you that Eddie and Marcus had not scored in quite some time, and then to see them now scoring in the first last two games, especially in the
Hmm.
championship, you're like, okay, here we go. This is what made them early in the season when Eddie was especially scoring at a very good rate.
Yeah, and Marcus has gotten like really hot and had a bunch of goals here in the postseason, and it was great to see him do that. I love how he is just, you know, crashing the net. He's going in, he follows through, he positions himself where he needs to be to sometimes get the rebound or, you know, he's such a good tandem there with Eddie, and he's been plagued by some tendonitis.
mhm.
So it was unfortunate that he came out at halftime, just like he did in the previous game.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
I mean, my overall thoughts on the first 45. First, Neil Pierre.
Yes.
Neil Pierre was a man amongst boys, and
Hmm.
that's saying something for a very young kid. I mean, the
Hmm.
skill, just now, how does that translate to first team is yet to be decided. However, on the night against a team, and we really didn't even talk about this North Texas team, so after I kind of give my summation, we can talk a little bit about them for kind of give some context a little bit. I thought he on the night was outstanding. Ball recoveries, long balls. I mean, that's been his thing, just pinging long balls, diagonal long balls, making some really great defensive stops. Even when he gets beat, his recovery speed, again, how does that translate to the first team? He was just impressive on the night. The thing that really stood out to me in that first 45 was the pressure from Marcus Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, David Vasquez,
Mm-hmm.
CJ, really kind of, and I even kind of paused to you a second, just really, again, tacking that right side. Maybe not as much as they were against Columbus, but you could see that kind of switching off that Frankie, CJ, and Kevin kind of have that bond that we kind of asked at the
Mm-hmm.
end of that press conference to Frankie.
Yeah.
Saw a little bit of that. I thought Gavin Wetzel, that first
Yeah.
45 was such a very, very difficult matchup, and Marlon had said that to me
Mm-hmm.
when I asked about him. I thought that his first 45, now second 45 is maybe a little different story, but was excellent on that. I mean, you went into that locker room going, and
Yeah.
to North Texas' credit, as that second half, towards the end of that half, they start getting into the match and waking up a little bit.
But they were so flat. Like North Texas was pretty flat that first half, except they were starting to pick up momentum.
They were. But I remember at halftime, we were sitting there talking with Tom a little bit, and just him and I, all of us sharing, and we're not gonna get into what we talked about, but just some really cool things, and just even he was kind of like, there's somebody that also is in me that covered Bethlehem Steel.
Hmm.
He's like, I really wish he was here. Um,
But yeah,
I think it's Tim Jones who works for Philly Soccer Page.
yeah.
He's been going all the way back. He's an OG. So we're talking about that, and just kind of, but a lot about Bethlehem Steel. So it was really kind of cool at half, and just have those conversations, and then just to show, kind of put a bow on that first 45. I thought the Union were the more aggressive team. They were winning the balls. They weren't allowing North Texas to find the space,
Hmm.
which is what North Texas does. And for those that don't know about North Texas, and this is talking with Justin at the end of the game, and for people that follow MLS Next Pro, North Texas was a juggernaut. This was going into the conference semis. I remember telling you, I'm like, I do not want to face North Texas. Having watched them, they were a juggernaut this year. Never lost at home.
Their
Goal
goal
difference.
differential was nuts.
And it's like I'd seen against Vancouver. Vancouver went up 2-0 on them, and they came back and beat them 4-2. Uh, Tacoma kind of was a team that had potential. Seattle's second team. They scored first on them. This was a team that they could go down and had gone down during the year by multiple goals and would come storming back. It was almost like you're they were playing with the other team. Having said that, Marlon talked about the resiliency of this team, how they could get punched in the
Hmm.
face
Yeah.
and respond. So,
At the
eh,
half, I was like cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, I was like really nervous because I felt like here I know about 2-0 leads, and also I still got PTSD
don't bring it up.
from yeah,
Thing.
that thing. So
So, we're gonna show some videos. Here's another video from Mike. He sent me. This is when they scored. This is at Union Yards. So that's kind of fans kind of getting excited at Union Yards.
hmm.
And then here's some other videos from us from the first half. There's the Bridge Brigade celebrating.
Yep.
This is after that first goal.
Yeah.
So there's that. And we'll see if we have anything else because we didn't really take much of the second 45.
Yeah.
This
This
was,
was I just took kind of a random picture.
yeah.
You got Marlon there, and one thing I was like about the Union 2 games is we can really hear Marlon yelling at them, and
You could
you know,
still hear him.
you could even though we were behind the glass, yes.
And the first 45, he really wasn't screaming as much as he
No.
was in the second 45. But anyway,
They were just so flat and things went from bad to worse. Like, okay, well, let's just get into it here because
so
it was a tale of two halves.
it was, and let's talk. Let's start out listening to Marlon's thoughts. So I asked Marlon about the second half,
Mm.
and what happened.
The ability to hold the ball up front. Him and Eddie have a nice partnership together, and it was a little bit of a shock, I think, for everybody that he couldn't continue. I think that was the first stage, and I just think it was a not a great free kick goal that we conceded, and you could feel the momentum swing at that point. And unfortunately, that was only 6 minutes into the second half. Um, that said, we were okay, and we were okay. Uh, but they started to push more numbers forward like we expected they were going to. We just didn't do a great job in terms of our transition and really just breaking the lines and finding the furthest man, which was Marcus in the first 45 minutes. It's different. And so just honestly, we just didn't do a great job in the transitional moments in particular. And I think the first goal kind of put us on our heels a little bit.
I noticed in the second half you kind of went from pivoted from the diamond to a double pivot and back. What was the thought process behind it?
Yeah, we had no access really to the ball a whole lot once Marcus came out. And the idea was just to kind of solidify with them pushing the extra numbers higher. They started with Sainty really deep in the beginning of the game and started to push him up into the midfield and made things really difficult for us when they were able to get the ball into the center of the field and hit switches. So we tried to get a little bit of an extra layer of protection in front of our center backs to try and slow that down a little bit. Unfortunately, we just started turning the ball over a little bit too much. The kids played as hard as they could. If I could reverse it and do it over again, not going to have to look it back. We've trusted these guys in these kind of moments all season long. Trying to go with changing from the diamond to double six was theoretically should stabilize us a little bit against them pushing the extra numbers forward. But we just didn't do a great job of holding on to the ball when we did win it.
So yeah, that's kind of Marlon's thoughts on the second half. Um,
So, in addition to Marcus coming out, another big thing for the second half, I think that contributed to the flatness was, well, Frankie got a yellow card. So
mhm.
then, I think he would have been a little more aggressive. And we know he plays aggressive, and
Yep.
that's one of the great things about his style play. And, much like Kai with the first team, just, aggressive and, just a workhorse there and
Mhm.
really consistently strong the whole season. And just so that was a big blow, honestly, to have that happen. And then the really bad thing happened, aside from the goals happening. Um, you know, they get scored on twice. And well, before that, Makanya gets shown a straight red
Which was a dumb move. Yeah, there was that, and we kind of
for
joked.
a dog, so
We
yeah.
were like, okay, Makanya, what are you gonna do? Don't do a blunder. Don't, oh, there's the blunder. And then when that happened, we were all just, I kind of had my head down, like, you saw it coming. He was playing with fire early on in that game, and yeah, not good.
Yeah, not good, man.
And that kind of
That
right
quote from Jim
there,
is the gift that keeps on giving.
yeah, that there just kind of ended it, point blank,
We're just like,
and that really put the Union back on their heels. Now, having said that, there's still soccer to be played, man
yeah,
down, and they did
they kind
play.
of contained it for a while
They
there.
contained it for a while until extra time
Extra
when,
time, it was like 1 minute into stoppage time, and then it was the go-ahead goal.
and that was all she wrote, really. I think you bring it up. For me personally, and that's kind of why I asked Marlon those questions, was you didn't have the outlet with Marcus when he came out because he
Hmm.
brought in Sal, and Sal's hot and cold.
Hmm.
He's had some good games this year, but he's also had games where he's irrelevant. And you kind of hope you get that, but you're gonna trust him or Jose Riasco. And that's kind of the reality of the situation. Again, these are kids.
Hmm.
But they're also kids that have been resilient. And this kind of goes back to you lose Marcus, so now the pressing's gone. That was a big thing.
You know what they needed, Kyle?
What?
They needed Leandro Soria. in there, but he was on the trip, but he hasn't been playing
No,
for whatever reason. We didn't ask,
we
but
didn't ask him. No one seems to know. And maybe Leandro is. Again, I'm not going to question Marlon's decisions on this one. There are some decisions I am curious about, but he's earned good faith this year with some of the subs he's made.
mhm.
It was an interesting second half. Um, and then, of course, the Frankie yellow card, and I was telling the stud, yellow card, Frankie, that kind of defensive pressure. Macanya's blunder, and that kind of sealed the deal. The silly foul, I think it was Neil. Was it Neil that drew that foul that led to Farrington's free kick?
I think it might have been. And that's like
Somebody,
one bad thing because Neil,
it,
let me tell you,
he had a great
Neil's
game.
fantastic. The kid is 17 and man, like, I mean, I keep saying, he's center back of the future
Eh,
for the team if they can keep him.
yeah, and then on the second goal, look, the second goal, Gavin, you know, he says Sadi, one of their star players, doesn't, is basically held pointless by Gavin. I mean, this guy's Gavin Wetzel's an academy kid. This other guy is a youth international. So what, the matchup there was, as Marlene said, he was going to have a huge test, and he passed it the first 45. Second 45, they adjusted, like Marlene said, and second goal, beautiful cross,
Hmm.
and he just runs around the ball, but Gavin gets beat by lets his man beat him, and there's nothing he's going to do there, and you're like, oh crap. And then on the third goal, I mean, at that point, it was just defensive was Union were back on their heels and a man down, and Virginia's going to make you pay. He's been one of their top goal scorers all year, and their top three came alive. And hey, at the end of the day, that's how the Union end up losing. And having
This,
said that, like Marlon said, I felt like when they made those substitutions and went back to the double pivot, at the defensive shape, like you said, the big difference was the second half. Once the fouls happened, marks went out. North Texas was able to find space and do what they wanted to do.
hmm
And when you do that to North Texas, and again, this is a team that thrived on that. They're going to
hmm
make you pay, and they did through mistakes. There were times where even I'm in the press box thinking in the back of my head, guys, calm down. Again, it's adversity,
hmm
and these are young kids. So this setback, I think, when they get into that situation again in their careers,
Yeah.
is going to benefit them
That's
because
what people need to remember. They're kids.
they are.
Like, I think one person in the starting lineup could legally buy a drink,
And that's what
as a,
Marlon said.
as Marlon said. Yeah.
And I mean, I was looking at the game notes and I'm looking at North Texas 22, 23, 24. I'm like, oh man, this is like Kyle Tucker level. Oh, there's an 18-year-old, there's an 18-year-old, there's a 24-year-old, there's a 20-year-old. I mean, they're not exactly an old team, but they have a lot much more older, mature players than,
Yeah,
you
more
know,
experience.
hi, I'm an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, talented kid, but also these are much more physically mature men. Um, so having said all that, some of the subs second half, yeah, sure, you bring out Calvin early, you bring out Eddie early. Um, you kind of had Sal playing as like a lone forward at one point. I thought that was weird. You bring there were some tr moves here that like, okay, what are we trying to do here? Like you took out David and CJ. Remember that? Like they
Yeah.
came out and I'm like kind of just scratching my head going, why are you taking out two of your
Yeah.
creators? Like
Yeah.
this is one of the games where I'm like,
Especially
they got
CJ.
Eddie's got to go 90. I don't
Yeah.
care. Like who do
Like
you
this is
have?
the season.
Yeah, this is the
It's not
season.
like you gotta
That
rest
was
him
my
type of
only
thing.
thing in the back of my head, and I didn't ask him that just because, again, I don't. It's a fair question. Maybe I should have.
I
And
mean, it's the championship, so
it
you
was kind of coming
can,
back in my head. I was just scratching myself like, why
yeah.
would you do that? I mean, you're subbing, but why are we subbing when we need to? But regardless,
Yeah.
I also found funny like he was playing Kellen all this time and Kellen doesn't get in. That was another
Hmm.
weird thing. Like,
Yeah.
where's Kellen? I don't know. Having said that, final whistle blows, celebration, and
That was heartbreaking.
it
And
was,
mm,
and we talked to the Bridge Brigade guys, and they said that, players were coming by in tears. Like they were devastated.
Well, yeah.
And we saw Andrew Rick because I said, Todd, did they show Andrew Rick? And they were like, no, they were showing like the North Texas players celebrating and all that.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, and I said, and Andrew Rick was just laying there looking up in the sky, like he looked like he just had like just collapsed and just was like had his head up, and he's just laying there in the prone position, just looking straight up at the sky, and it was just like, man, you let that first goal in, and I'm sure he's still feeling that
Yeah.
because, but again, something that will benefit him long term.
Those players, they've had an emotional season.
Yep.
And just the last few weeks have been really emotional. Of course, Holden.
Yeah.
And then, did honestly, I don't think it helped that Jim got fired this week. That I don't think was probably a huge factor. Like, but at the same time, that's not a great thing to happen during this week
I don't think we
because
know really how that impacted the team.
no, not necessarily.
But, again, they've been resilient, but
Yeah.
it's at least a talking point, did it?
Right. Yeah. Well, because, remember a lot of these guys,
Right.
practiced up with the first team.
Right.
So, just one more thing on,
It's a compounding effect.
yeah, yeah.
It's a potential
Yeah.
compounding effect.
So, but yeah, with these guys being so young, of course, they don't have maybe as much experience with being in this kind of situation. But my heart broke for them because to be up 2-0 and
Mhm.
then three unanswered goals and it felt like it was within the grasp. I mean, I would say it was not as heartbreaking as something that happened 2 years ago
Don't
because
bring it up.
just I think because how close that was. Um, I
Jose brings up a valid point. We were there for both of those games.
well, you know what?
We were there for both of those
Yeah,
games.
and I thought, well, we're in the press box this time for it. We were in the stands for the MLS Cup, but
Yeah. A-
listen,
Anyway,
I like. Yeah, it was painful to watch. And then as we're waiting for the press conference and stuff, we have to hear all that celebration and everyone just like all the North Texas people are there and they're all like happy and we're just like and I could just see it like in Marlon's like body language and like in his eyes it's like, yeah.
so yeah, let's wrap up. Um,
Did you have
the
any more clips you wanted to share?
Yes, I actually have two more clips.
Okay.
So I want to share this first one from Marlon talking about the fans, and you kind of asked us about the story of the season and
Hmm.
fans.
Yeah. It was a trophy. We don't have a whole lot of trophies, and we just won one just a week ago. Um, and I think the main message to the fan base is if we could achieve with this group of players, this young group of prospects, um, we had one player legally allowed to go and buy himself a drink um, on the pitch that started this game today. You can't be more excited for what the future holds in store for this club because for that team to go out against a team 3 years older on average per player and put up the fight and play as well as they did for so long, this club has nothing but good things in store for them. And certainly, in a different day, maybe it plays out a little bit differently. But for us to be that young and compete that well, we have nothing but great days ahead for the Philadelphia. Yeah.
So that
It
was
was a
that.
trophy.
Yeah, and my question pretty much, yeah, it was like with, what's your message to the fan base given, MLS Next Pro and Union 2 have grown so much and they've gained more popularity and notice. And you have Philly fans that are also probably they're frustrated that yet another Philly team comes so close to winning it all to come up short, you
Hmm.
know? But this is a growing movement and everything. So what's your message to the fan base on, with that regard?
And then, yeah, and I thought he gave a great answer, and
Great
he's right.
answer. Uh-huh.
He's right. There's a lot to be excited moving forward for this team.
Yeah, I think like it's only the beginning for these guys, I
No,
think.
and even those, maybe a few won't be back next year, but I also think there's a lot coming up through the academy that are going to be replacing them. Now, maybe
Mhm.
they might not be as developed as they were this year, but there's some potential there. And then I asked him what his thoughts on the Bridge Brigade were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a great group of guys and gals. I mean, the Bridge Brigade has been everything for this group. I started with this club, and there were 15 people watching them play games. Um, Now they're playing in front of great crowds like this, and in particular our group. Um, the only thing I can really say is thank you to them. Thank you for supporting this young group of players. Thank you for being behind them. Thank you for, you know, making these trips and supporting them win or lose, no matter what. They're always there. And I really don't have a whole lot of more words for that besides for thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and it's something seeing, Marlon in the Bridge Brigade sweatshirt throughout the
Yeah.
game and in the presser. I mean, credit to, all those guys that have been behind it because it's been really refreshing to have that. And just it made the games really fun. So, yeah. So credit to them and um I just hope to see it keep growing.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and then we're not gonna play the 4 minute video. If you want to go back and listen to Todd and Jose, excellent question from Jose to Marlon about just him, his future,
Yeah,
and all that. And he goes in sharing his story, which is a story we've shared. I've talked to Marlon about. And Todd was like, yeah, the story of how he got into Union 2. It wasn't even him wanting to come in and be a first team coach.
yeah, he was coaching West Virginia University and
And
yeah.
he's far away from his family and kind of just decided he wanted to be with his family. And you got to credit a man for that. And
Hmm.
that's a man of character. That's putting his professional career ahead of, you know, his goals ahead of the family's goals.
It's the other way around. So he's putting his family ahead of
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you're right.
putting family
Yeah, I got
first,
tongue tied.
basically. He's putting family first. And so
But
yeah,
yes.
yeah, he got into because Kellen is in the academy and everything and he so he got into that and you know, made his way up in there and yeah, he basically said, he doesn't know what's happening because, you know, will he be back or not? And, there's rumors and everything and I'm sure, you know, we have the whole gym thing. As of recording this tomorrow, there'll be the presser.
Which we'll talk about real
Yeah,
briefly before we
it's
get
going to
to
be at 11 a.m. and it's going to be what Sugarman and
Ernst.
Ernst. Yeah.
But getting back to Marlon, I mean, just with his future up in the air, I would say this: if this truly is the last time, um, I just want to personally say, Marlon, thank you for your time, for sharing your story about you and Kellen to us, and just getting to know him. He was, I would say, having covered this team. He respected the fact that, we were taking time. I know you even said somebody else from the union
Hmm.
reached out and said, thank you for covering this team.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, that
We've
meant a
had
lot.
some other, I will say, fans reach out to us and say thank you as well. And we look, we don't consider ourselves to be the voice of the second team. We
We
just
try to get their stories out there and
that's all we
give
really
them
want to do.
notice.
But if you are coming to us for the second team, I mean, hey,
Hey, if that's how
yeah,
if you view it,
and I
the voice of
appreciate
it,
that
I
because
appreciate it.
the second team's where the stories are because these are going to be potentially the stars of the first team in a few years. So
Yeah. And I've said this before.
the
Go ahead.
more you know of them, the
Yeah.
better. So
Yeah.
again, back to Marlon. Sorry to cut you off there. I know you want to talk. Just thank you.
Yeah.
That's really what I have to say. If this is it, thank you, Marlon.
Yeah. So I have just to piggyback off that, this was the first year that I really, was involved officially in a media capacity.
Hmm.
And I got to talk to Marlon quite a bit and get to know him and had many conversations with him. And, um, I just appreciate from like day one of actually talking to him, like at training and everything, how personable he is and um, just super friendly. And like a lot and so much of the staff is too, I have to say. But, I just really appreciate he give really thoughtful answers
Hmm.
and, gave you the time of day and I appreciated this from Jim too. He really was it didn't matter that we were independent, seemed to value that as well. So, just wanted to say, yeah, thank you, Marlon. And I think Marlon's an incredible coach. I come from, as I've said many times, I come from a developmental coach, background and working with the up and coming kids, and I'm a teacher. So I really appreciate what he does. And he's always about the development. He's about those learning moments. And yeah, the winning's nice. And of course, you want to win too, but he appreciates the whole process. And I appreciate that. So, um, as I said in post I did yesterday on Twitter, I think he's an asset to the organization. It's a shame if he's not still there in some capacity because I think he's done a great job. And I know he said in his post game presser last night that, you hope to come in, leave, that program better than you found it, basically. I
Yep.
like that quote from him.
And so to me, that
I think he achieved that.
I think he achieved
If he,
that. I
yeah.
think the project is achieved for this stage, if that's because he did.
Yeah.
So, um, final thought, real shoot off the top of your head. Top three moments from this year, go.
I thought the shootout win, um, the shootout win was a big one,
Hmm.
in the playoffs. And then definitely just, I mean, for me, it's going to be a lot of the playoffs. The just drubbing of Columbus Crew too.
Hmm.
And, with that, they had so much on their minds too, playing for that. I think the Columbus game was just winning the Eastern Conference final. That was just so special,
Hmm.
I think, for them, and just the enthusiasm. Um, so with those, and I don't know, like a third one. I mean, gosh, we were at so many, but yeah, I don't know.
I can tell you why you're still thinking. For
Yeah.
me, it was about sure the games were great, and there were some really great games, some great drubbings. Just
Oh, hold on. Yeah, my favorite. Well, my favorite. Just like it's kind of a combination, but I loved having the players on our pod.
that was the first. That was one of my first ones.
Yeah.
Just getting to share Neil, Sal, Frankie, Eddie. We never got CJ on. That was one we were gonna
Hmm.
try to get on. But then talking to like Gavin Wetzel, talking to Leandro Soria,
That's
talking to Jameer Johnson, which was probably the shortest interview I ever had, but he was
yeah.
also 15 at the time.
Hmm.
And, you know, talking
I
to
talked to CJ many times though after the
CJ
games.
became the Jacob Cousins, and for
I
those
was
of you in
there.
the union media, you know what that is, and what that is every press game. It seems like they're going to run out either Daniel Gazdag
Yeah.
or
And we talked to David, we talked
yeah,
to Andrew Rick, we talked to a bunch of them post game, which was
Eddie.
great. And yeah, we talked to Eddie. I talked to Eddie a few times, 'cause, like
Yeah,
at the
I
one
mean,
training I was at too. So,
just sharing their stories. But that's the first thing. Second thing for me has to be the Eastern Conference press conference with the Marlon. I love you.
oh, that was yeah.
That was just one of my favorite moments. Probably being in a press conference. That was great. And then finally, just being around that team at practice and seeing the hard work and grit, determination that they play, how they interacted with each other. And just, like Ty brought up about it too to me, like how at the end of practice they all come over and just shake your hand. Now they do that for the first team too, and I think that's a culture that both Marlon and Jim instilled in those
Yeah.
people. Very, very appreciative. But yeah, just getting to talk to those guys,
Yeah.
and so I say all that to say those are kind of the memories I look at out just outside the game. So
And honorable mention goes to like we actually the first Union 2 game of the season, which was like St. Patrick's Day.
yeah,
We just went to that as like we were just down in the stands for that. We were not in the press box, I remember.
I mean, we were in press box I think for 3 games this year.
Well, we were in press box for like the rest of them pretty much. But like
There was two, one with
there's like
Todd
two
and
at the
Colton.
beginning of the season and then
I think there was another one we went down, just kind of hung out down there.
but just like the Bridge Brigade was brand new too and just we just had so much fun
We
and
did.
hanging out down there too. So I love that BR, comes in the stadium. Just but yeah, it was a lot of fun and I think that I covered Union 2 way more like in a media capacity, like officially, going in the press box, going to the pressers, going to training. I mean, I did that with the first team too, but um, that really was something I did a lot of being with the second team. So I feel like that was really rewarding and just what a special team. I really enjoyed covering it, and I hope that people have enjoyed our coverage of it.
Yeah. And so thank you, again for, allowing us and following us on our journey of sharing this team. And don't get it twisted. This isn't just a one-off. We're gonna be covering them again next year. I
Oh,
think.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's been exciting, regardless of who's there, who's not there. But anyway, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Jay Sugarman, Ernst Tanner are going to address the media. I am going to be there. So if you're listening to this tomorrow morning, I'm probably either be en route or have already been there.
And I'll
Uh,
be on the Zoom.
yeah, and so later this coming week, we will be dropping our season end predictions. Um, talking maybe a little bit more about if news breaks, anything here with the second team. Um, but yeah, lots still to discuss on this off season. So
Absolutely. We have content for you, so stay tuned.
yes, lots of it. So that's all for this episode of the One Team We Grunt. And again, one other thing, and we'll put this out there. It's going around social media. Check out Jeff Carlisle's interview on ESPN. Dropped Saturday.
Wasn't an
It,
interview.
it was an
It was just an
article
article.
where there were some players and, well, we're not sure sources, but
Sources more about the gym firing.
yes.
It was a really well written article. It was a very interesting article.
Very, very, and so I'm interested tomorrow to see how much of that is addressed.
Yes, I agree.
So anyway, again, this is all for this episode of the One Team We Agree On.
Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, follow us on our various social medias. We love interacting with you, so leave us comments and spread the word. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And yeah, stay tuned for much more content.
And until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Jillian.
We'll see you at the game.